right, this is Heavy Radio 15 coming at you with William Elliott Whitmore, live from the woods of Lee County, Iowa, right by the Mississippi River. And great to have you here, Will.
I'm so honored to be on here. I've been listening to some older ones, and really enjoying it. And so I'm honored to be talking to you. It's nice to be talking to anyone at all, actually.
Yeah, I feel you there. And our guests, it has been a really cool thing. Kind of people always enjoying, digging through the stuff that moves them. So it's been really cool so far. And we also want to just start out with, you got a new album coming out. It's really soon, October 16th, and the album is I'm With You. And you can listen to a song right now, actually, My Mind Can Be Cruel to Me. And there's a video you can watch with that, too.
Yeah, I'm excited for people to hear this. It was supposed to come out in May, and then this little thing called a global pandemic happened. And so that got pushed back. All my tour plans and everything, as I'm sure you're hearing from a lot of people, got pushed back till next year. And but I decided to go ahead and put out the album because I just want people to hear it. And I'm excited. It deals with a lot of themes, even though this was written, a lot of it was written last year. A lot of it's about sticking together during hard times and difficult periods. So I feel like it still applies right now.
It's really interesting how that works out. I mean, so many songs are written so long ago. It feels like, are they talking about the present right now that we're experiencing? And I mean, your song, for one that comes to mind to me, is your song Mutiny. It's like, it seems like every new cycle it just becomes more applicable to me, but
yeah, that was
like, how
written,
is that? That's not supposed to be how it goes.
No, I know. Well, and that Animals in the Dark record that's now 11 or 12 years old, a lot of the concept of that was written during like the Bush years. It seems like a distant dream, those years from 2000 to 2008, but it was written during that time. And so, like, the song Old Devils, for instance, is about how these things have been going on for hundreds, thousands of years, ever since someone stood up and said, I'm going to lead this village, or whatever. Or like,
yeah.
So these have been going on since the days of ancient Rome and before that even. So that's kind of the whole point. It was like, I hope this doesn't keep applying, but it certainly seems to keep applying.
Yeah, keep digging up these old devils somewhere.
I keep coming back to that there's a lot of beauty in the world too, and I in order to survive these hard periods, as so many people are, you got to think of the beauty too, and take solace in art and music and friends and family if you can. So yeah.
Yeah. No, I really appreciate, that place that you come from there. And I think, that's what everybody can do is put out there what you want to get. So, yeah, I definitely think there is, there's always the optimism to be had in, more at the community level for sure. And, who you surround yourself with and what you're putting out into the world for sure. And I think that's always came through in a lot of your tunes that are about different situations that affect everybody. So yeah, we got a couple bits of news that I wanted to talk about, and I think a lot of people are out there talking about Eddie Van Halen. Eddie Van Halen passed away, but it sounds like one of those cases. He had like his family around him, his son, his brother. You got Ozzy and Angus Young paying their respects, so we just want to give a heavy radio cheers to Eddie Van Halen.
Yeah, that was crazy news to get. I knew that he'd been battling cancer, throat cancer, and it just was but it still seems out of nowhere in a way, and it was really sad because his shadow looms so large, in culture. And so, yeah, man, and by all accounts, he was just a cool, nice guy. I mean, different little situations aside, by all accounts, he was just a cool guy, man. And so
Yeah,
I feel for his family. I feel for everyone around him now, and it just sucks.
yeah, and I think everybody has those rough spots where if it spills out into public, you're probably not thrilled about that. But yeah, it sounds like just like I guess in some cases you got to look at the light of it being lucky that he got to be around his family right now, because some people, due to the situation, don't seem to be having that. So yeah, it's pretty. I'm one of those that definitely celebrates the life of a person, like with respect to different people's mourning. But yeah, we'll definitely be cranking some Van Halen today.
Well, and what a body of work to draw from. I mean, you've got a lot to choose from there, and yeah, we want to celebrate someone. Can't do anything about their death, but we can celebrate their life, and
Yeah,
we hope someone does that for us someday.
I think the cool thing there also is Eddie Van Halen had this body of work where he's got like some wicked acoustic songs and songs on, just the strings and him, as opposed to everything being, on 11. So there's a lot of cool stuff to dig into there.
Yeah, he was a virtuoso. I mean, that's no secret. But yeah, capable of doing a lot of different styles, um, and he sure did in a nice long career. Not long enough, but yeah, man.
Yeah, also San Francisco Metal Veterans Trauma, they announced that their vocalist, Donnie Hillier, passed away after fighting a short illness, and he was at one time bandmates with former Metallica bassist Cliff Burton before Cliff joined Metallica. So we'll give a rockin' power to EVH and to Donnie Hillier. It's always one of those things where, like, someone who was a massive force in the pop culture world passed away, and then someone who was, doing the hard work and just kind of living it, doesn't get as much of a mention. But we're definitely doing that here. So rockin' power, Eddie Van Halen and Donnie Hillier.
Yeah, I guess I don't know the band Trauma. I'll have to like now check that out. But you're right that he was quietly doing it, or underground doing his thing for a long time without all the accolades, and rocked just as hard probably. I don't
Yeah,
know that band, but
it's interesting, especially when there's that crossroad with someone that went on to be part of culture. And so he played with Cliff Burton, and before that, Cliff Burton played with was in a band with the Faith No More guitarist Jim Martin. So it's kind of crazy just how those things intersected there in the Bay Area for a while. But we also got some new music this week from AC/DC with Shot in the Dark. And just crazy that those guys are still kind of firing on all cylinders. I remember something coming through your feed where you were touring in Western Australia, and you got to stop by the Bon Scott statue. Is that right?
yeah, that's funny. Yeah, I haven't heard that new album yet, that AC/DC album. I knew they were doing one, and it's just so heartening. I just thought, oh, okay, some stuff is right with the world. AC/DC is going to put out some music. But yeah, I was over in Australia years ago. I went down there a couple times and got to tour. And yeah, Western Australia, the city's called Perth. And it's the most isolated city for its size in the world, So they're just really glad you're there. When you go play there, they're really stoked. And so yeah, while we were there, we had some time to go see in a little nearby town. There's a bronze statue of Bon Scott, and so we went and took pictures by it. And there's like a little placard and stuff, and we gave our respects. And it's so funny it's a bronze statue by the water there, and there's lipstick marks on the crotch of the statue where people have kissed it. Where I'm assuming women have kissed it, or men that put on lipstick and kissed the crotch. And there's the bulge, and that was pointed out to us that people go there and kiss the crotch of Bon Scott, and I just thought that there's AC/DC right there.
Yeah,
If someone
that's-
said they were the best rock band of all time, I couldn't really argue. I mean, you could say that about a few bands, but I wouldn't fight you on that, you know.
I am right there with you, and that's I don't think Bond could have thought of a more fitting tribute. So it just seems so right. It's one of those things that this is the right kind of tribute for the right person.
Well, I'll have to check out that new stuff, and it's so comforting. Like your mind already knows what it is, right? Like that's why they're so amazing. Like I already
Yeah.
know what I'm in store for, and that's a good thing. Like to me, that's comforting, and it's a good thing. I don't want them to all of a sudden have an orchestra.
Yeah,
I don't want them to all of a sudden have a drum machine break down.
Yeah,
I want them to be them.
you definitely. In my take, you get that. It sounds really, to me, really amazing and comforting in terms of what you want from AC/DC. And the other day I was watching a concert of theirs, and my girlfriend was like, "Oh, they're so old," and I'm like, "This was like 1992, so you don't even know." They've just been doing it, and still the Angus still so much intensity, like it's amazing, and yeah, just you don't even know, you've only dipped your toes into this. These old guys that are rocking as hard as anybody.
Yeah, they were only in their late 40s at that time, or whatever. But the older I get, the more I appreciate longevity, and it's funny and it's easy to be like they should give it up, or the Rolling Stones should just give it up, or whoever.
Yeah.
But it's like the older I get, I'm like, no, man, keep going forever. Don't you
Yeah.
know, I don't know.
Yeah,
Who
no,
cares?
I feel
Just keep playing, man. Look at Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds. Like, you're gonna tell me that they're not making? He's writing some of the best stuff he's ever written.
Oh
right
yeah,
now. Like for instance,
so many artists go through these phases and then come out with so many people around the world are so happy you put out a new record. It's like, why not just keep embracing that and tell the new stories. You've grown and evolved every minute, every day, and tell what you got now, what you got to say now. For sure, I'm right with you there. And then the last bit we have some bits of history here in. So this date in 1986, Slayer released Rain and Blood, and prior to that, October 7th, 1978, the Rolling Stones appeared on Saturday Night Live. So we know that you actually had some late night television experiences in 2012, later with Jools Holland in the United Kingdom. Then in 2018, it was the show Last Call. So what was that like, getting to be on some late night TV? That's kind of a classic thing. I guess there's a lot of history to, all kinds of people watching Johnny Carson every night and that sort of thing.
yeah, it was fun. I look at anything like that as just a fun chance to do something different. The Jools Holland thing, I was on tour in England, and that kind of came about last minute, and I hadn't heard of that show. It is broadcast in the States, but it's not as popular. But over there, it's hugely popular. And I was like, okay, Jools Holland, I'm pretty sure it's the dude from Squeeze. And so, but got on, so I was about to end that tour. And so we stayed an extra couple days to get on that show. And it was really fun because if people don't know the show, you're one of like 6 or 7 acts that play, and you're all set up all at once. And so they'll go from you, then the next song is someone else. And so the people that were with me on my episode, it was Yusuf, also known as Cat Stevens. I got to meet him. He was super cool. The band Madness, people might remember. We got to partake of some drinks with those guys backstage, which was pretty fun. And gosh, who else? This woman named Bat for Lashes. But it was just a really fun thing. You're all kind of together on that. So that was a fun format. And then the Carson Daly thing was cool because they filmed it out at this historic venue in LA called the Troubadour. And it's a place I'd played a bunch before. And so that was cool because you weren't going to like a sterile TV studio. I was going to a venue that I knew, and Troubadour's very historic LA venue, and so that's where they filmed it. And so that was extra cool. I didn't meet Carson. Carson Daly wasn't even there or anything. They cut to him later, or he introduces the band, and then they play your part or whatever. But it was just a really fun time, and it's just interesting, being in front of the cameras and shit, and just a whole different thing. But I always look at that stuff as just being a interesting experience.
Yeah, totally. And yeah, I just remember when I was really young, I would watch it. For my time, it was Conan O'Brien and David Letterman, and there's some of the cool music experiences, like on Letterman when Warren Zevon would kind of take over and be like a house band. It was fucking amazing. And on Conan, we had like Slipknot there, who were from Iowa, so that was cool to see and stuff like that. So there's just, I think it's kind of carrying on. We'll see if that's still a thing. Obviously not the same impact that late night TV maybe used to have, but there's definitely a tradition there that's still going. So,
well, and it used to be. I mean, I'm of the age where that was one of the only places to even see a band on TV. I'm from the time of 3 channels. If you hear old timers talk, you'll talk about the 3, 7, and 10 channels. So yeah, something like SNL, David Letterman. Yeah, I used to definitely watch Johnny Carson and then Jay Leno or whatever. But yeah, Conan. And so you'd be super stoked when someone like Slipknot was on, especially because, they're Iowa dudes, and so we're just proud. But, especially SNL, you'd just be excited when, like, next week Public Enemy is going to be on,
yeah.
or Pearl Jam, or
yeah.
freaking whatever, and so that was one of the only places to even see bands, and I used to love it so much.
Yeah, no, for sure. And as we mentioned, you got a new album coming out, With You, October 16th. And you can get this at Bloodshot Records, and you'll be able to buy it at your local music stores. And I always like to ask the musician when I can, like, what's the best way for people to shell out money for this merch and this new record?
Well, either of those are great, because people should definitely support their local record stores if they can. I know times are tight for everyone, so that's hard, times are tight and stuff, but if you can get to your local record store, that's good. The Bloodshot route is definitely good. But I have my own website and web store, just WilliamElliottWhitmore.com. That kind of is the most direct way to help me get groceries, as I like to say. WilliamElliottWhitmore.com. And of course, there's shirts and all sorts of other stuff too. But any way you get it is cool, man. Even if you're just streaming it or whatever, I just want people to enjoy it. But I did take time to put together, the tracks go in an order that makes sense. And so if you can listen to the album front to back, that's the recommended way to listen to it. But I'm very proud of it, and I'm glad for people to get a chance to hear it.
Hell yeah. And it seems to me that you've had something in common with Lemmy from Motorhead. Lemmy was a roadie for Jimi Hendrix when he was kind of getting into the live music scene. So you started out kind of on that same route, is that right?
Yes. When I moved off the farm, when I was 19 or 20, I moved to a university town called Iowa City, and to play music, to try to play music for a living. And I got plugged into kind of the hardcore and punk scene there. That was just the most readily available. Those were the people that were readily available to talk to and make friends with. And you'd go down to Gabe's or the Green Room or Gunners and meet people and go to shows and talk to people. And there was some folk scene stuff happening too. David Zolo and Bo Ramsey and Dave Moore. They were kind of the generation before me, so there was that too. But I kind of just made friends with a lot of like the punk kids and hardcore kids, because I was into that type of stuff too. And so I made friends with some of them. And there was this band called the Vita Blue, and I got to be real good buddies with them and started to go on tour with them, jump in their van, and carry amps and sell merch. And then it got to be where they'd let me open up some of the songs with my banjo. I'd bring a banjo along, and they would say, "Hey, why don't you play a couple songs before our set?" And so that was kind of a weird side door into playing on the road. I'd done a lot of gigs around town and stuff, but hitting the road was a new thing. And so they later changed their name to 10 Grand, and we toured every state and hit every town and for years. And I got a real education on the road like that. And again, it was, doing like metal clubs, because even they, as sort of a, I'd say hardcore screamo punk, but interesting. Like they had a weird slant on it that was cool. But even they got bundled into like metal shows and hardcore shows, which was cool because we all liked that stuff. So I like a show with a lot of different types of bands on and stuff. So they would get lumped in with that, and then I would get lumped in with them doing my banjo thing. So it really made for like a really diverse show. We toured in Europe, and I remember playing like black metal clubs in Germany. Imagine that, just these walls painted black, and so it's literally a black club, but then it's where these black metal bands played, and death metal and stuff. But we loved it. The the people that came were appreciative. They're just glad you're there again. And so we just fit right in. So I've always felt comfortable, in a punk world, hardcore world, heavy music world. Because when you speak of that kind of music, there's really so many kinds of a band like Lightning Bolt is heavy, but it's heavy in a different way, than Slayer. Or I don't know. So I'm interested in all these ways that quote unquote heavy music can be defined. And as you've said, a Bob Dylan song can be heavy. It can be emotionally heavy. It can have lyrics that are heavy. A Tom Waits song, a freaking Nick Cave song can be heavy. So I'm interested in those things. So I've always liked to blur the lines between all that music and just enjoy it.
Yeah, and on kind of the other end of the spectrum from the roadie beginnings, you at one point got to share tour experience with Chris Cornell, and that I think has got to be a pretty epic, some epic memories there. What was that? What are some takeaways you got from that?
Oh man, yeah, I was just thinking about him recently. I just read his biography. It's called Total Fucking Godhead, and someone sent it to me. A mystery person sent it to me. I got it in the mail with no return address. And so I was just thinking about that old boy recently. And that tour, it's a great book, by the way, but that tour was in 2011, and I got the call just on the farm from my manager saying, hey, they need you for 5 weeks to open up for Chris Cornell. He's doing a solo tour. He hasn't done one in a few years. I jumped at that because I grew up loving Soundgarden, and in fact, I still listen to a lot of Soundgarden from across their whole catalog. So jumped at the chance to do that tour. It started in Austin, Texas. So drove down to start the tour, and he was really nice right away. He was a really cool guy, man. Whenever his name comes up, I just think of fond memories because he was just a really warm, cool guy. And he was a little bit distant because of the life he's led. It's him and his bodyguard, which he had to have because he's had a ton of problems with like stalkers and weirdness. And I mean, can you even imagine it? So he had his bodyguard. So he was a tiny, little distance there. But once he warmed up, he really warmed up. And so I had a few good talks with him. And what a talent. Even at that time, I was like, this is our modern day. I mean, is there more of a rock star, more of a rock god than him? I mean, in a good way. I mean, rock star could be tossed around in a derogatory sense, but no, just literally he embodied the voice, the look, the talent. Just like, this is our guy, man. This is our Robert Plant or whatever. So it was just such an honor. And then on that tour, we were trying to go to Canada, and I've had some legal troubles before, so they wouldn't let me into Canada. And in fact, I got detained in a Canadian jail trying to cross at Buffalo, and I went to jail for the night, and then they deported me the next day, so I didn't get to do the Canadian gigs. But when I caught back up with Chris and the crew in Seattle, of all places, he gave me a big hug. He like hugged me, and he was this big. He was a tall guy. He was this big guy, and he's like, "Oh, I heard about your troubles, man. That sucks, and we're so glad to have you back." And he like gave me a hug, and I'll just
That's
never forget.
amazing.
It was just the warmest, nicest guy.
And that's so awesome to hear because on a huge tour, you could always get the other end, the dick that like writes you off because you got in trouble, gotten detained. But then no, this he was just waiting for you to give you a hug.
Yeah, and a lot of maybe there'd be people that wouldn't even know that happened. It wouldn't even be on their radar.
Yeah.
So he knew all about it and he. I'm sure they went through stuff like that too back in the day. And
Yeah.
so at that
Totally.
show, it was great because the rest of the Soundgarden dudes came. Ben Shepherd and Kim Thayil came. Matt Cameron was probably on tour with Pearl Jam, but got to meet Kim Thayil, which was a real honor. In fact, I think they stole some of my backstage beers, which was funny. And Kim Thayil, another just great, down to earth, cool guy. We were just standing by the side of the stage watching Chris, and they were just so proud to be watching him do his thing. And I don't know, those guys struck me as just really down to earth, cool guys. So that tour was so much fun. And then when he passed away, it was so sad. It's another in a huge long list of people dying too soon.
Yeah, totally. And another thing that always stood out to me is that so now you can say millions of people have heard your song, your track, Bury Me Not on the Lone Prairie, because it was in Red Dead Redemption. And so many people buy, it's like more people buy copies of games now than they tend to do albums. So that was, it just to me, it fit that work of art so well because I look at, anything that people kind of build fits in that realm of art. So it was just a really cool place for that to be in my take.
Yeah, it's definitely art. I'm not a gamer. I mean, I had a Nintendo back in the day that I enjoyed, but I'm not. It didn't follow me into adulthood. But you can't deny that it's art for sure. I've got a buddy that works at Rockstar Games in New York City, and what they do, it's amazing. I mean, I can't wrap my mind around it because it's a lot of ones and zeros, but what they do is an art form for sure. And so when it coincides with my art form, which is music, it's enjoyable to me. And so when I got that chance, to me it was another unique, fun thing. And when they told me it was a cowboy themed game, and I thought, oh, that's kind of cool, man. Like it'll be in there. So that doing that old standard was really fun, and then it went on to be a hugely like influential and popular game that people really enjoy. And so I jumped at that chance too. That again, another just interesting. People shouldn't be afraid to take a chance and do something out of their realm and do something interesting. I don't know, like you said, like games sell like albums used to sell, and so I don't know. Let's integrate. Let's put them all together. I just did some music for this game called Wasteland 3. They got a hold of me about doing some music for it, and I did that recently. And I don't know. To me, it's all art, as you say, and let's get together.
Yeah, especially in this case, to be like the closest thing at that time to be walking around a old west ghost town, and there's bandits running around, and then you hear some William Elliott Whitmore blasting. So it was definitely a really cool thing.
Yeah, they sent me as part of that. They sent me was it Xbox 360? I think that's what that was on.
Yeah, I think it came out on a number of things.
Yeah, and so they, again, like I'm not a gamer at all, but I tried to hook it up and play the game, and it was way different than a side-scrolling Mario Brothers. So I couldn't play it, but I ended up giving it to my brother. But I just thought, look how far these things have come.
Yeah, and without further ado, we'll get into our heavy radio tracks here. All our guests add songs to the playlist. So this is Heavy Radio 15 playlist, and we will just kind of go round robin through to what we're adding to the playlist here. If you wanna start it off.
Oh, this is great. See, I put some thought into this. I love the format of this and the idea of it. So I decided all the tracks I chose, the old ones and the new ones, are side one, track ones. They're all trios. And so I'm going to start with, you mentioned Motorhead earlier. I'm going to start with Motorhead, the song Motorhead, off of the album Motorhead.
Amazing.
And
When did you kind of first hear the Motorhead coming through your stereo?
it would have been like in the 80s. I probably read about him in a Thrasher magazine, which is the skateboarding magazine that was another window into a wider culture that I used to love. I'd get it at the grocery store, and I'd go with my mom to the grocery store, and I loved skateboarding and the whole culture around it. So they'd have articles in there about music, and even just seeing the little ads for like shirts and albums, and you'd look at the tiny little pictures and like, okay, Motorhead, Slayer, you know, I found out about a ton of stuff like that, and so I think they came onto my radar at that time, and to me, they bridged the gap between punk and metal in a way that I don't know who else does. But it was like perfect skate rock, metal and punk at the same time. And again, I'm a sucker for a power trio.
Yeah, totally. And my first track we're adding here to the playlist is Desperados Under the Eaves from Warren Zevon. This is a song written and performed by Warren Zevon from his self-titled 1976 album. And to me, this was just a heavy dude in pretty much every sense of the word. The good, the bad, and the ugly. And I think he's someone where it really came through in his music. And just this song has on background vocals Carl Wilson from the Beach Boys, and just a very dark sense of humor that shines through, I think, and something that I like to put on when we got kind of times that are tough, and you got I think someone who can laugh through it and who really had that show through in their music.
Yeah, what a great songwriter. And yeah, just a weird, cool, interesting cat, man. His stuff's great.
Yeah. What's your next track?
So the next one I want to add, I'm going to keep these older ones are all in the 70s, early 70s actually. So the next one I'm going to add is Budgie, another band from England. This is a side one, track one, called Guts, and off of their self-titled album Budgie. And they came onto my radar maybe 10 years ago or something, digging through old records at the record collector in Iowa City, speaking of local record stores. And I had some friends that had gotten into them, and again, just another trio, a heavy trio, man. Got into their stuff, and this song's called Guts.
Yeah, there's some really wild bass playing, and just some, to me they're one of those bands that is right up there and doing a lot of the same amazing stuff as a Rush or Motorhead, and lots of really cool stuff to dig into with Budgie. My next track is Blaze Foley with Oval Room, and he released Oval Room in 1984 as a B-side to a 45 issued by Vital Records. And we were talking about earlier how Mutiny seems to be able to relate to almost any president thereafter. Well, this to me this was in 1984, and he admitted to it being about Reagan. So it just sounds like put this on now, and give it a listen. It sounds to me pretty relatable.
I'll have to check that out. I don't know Blaze Foley. I'll have to
Definitely.
check that out.
There's actually some really cool stuff that people can dig into. There was a documentary, Blaze Foley, Duct Tape Messiah, and there's a biographical drama that came out a couple years ago called Blaze. But he was from Austin area, and I really think you could appreciate some of his stuff. To me, I was like, Oval Room, this would be a perfect one for Will to take on. So definitely check it out.
Awesome. I see that. This is why I like talking music with people, because you learn new shit to check out.
And honestly, so Merle Haggard and Willie Nelson had played a song he wrote. Lucinda Williams wrote a song about him. Leanne Womack sang one of his songs. Lyle Lovett, John Prine. So you know when these kind of people are paying that kind of respect, it was a special kind of light. And also, what I think is cool is that I usually do bring more of the heavy metal tracks, but now I have Will Whitmore, and you're bringing the heavy metal, and I'm kind of bringing the more, crazy, older, heavier, quasi country dudes. but yeah, I love that. What else you got for the playlist?
So we're stepping into each other's worlds a little bit. See, I like
yeah,
that.
Totally.
See, again, that's this is what I like, because heavy can mean a lot of different things. I'm going, so this last one, going to Detroit in the early 70s, a band called Death. They were another 3-piece band. Early 70s Detroit, didn't get much attention. A lot of people got hip to them after there was a documentary called A Band Called Death. And so Drag City reissued their record. It was like a collection of 7 inches, basically, called For the Whole World to See. And Drag City in 2009 re-released it. And so the track is another track 1, side 1, called Keep On Knocking. And it gets more into the punk, more straight up punk realm. But I think about a lot of the stuff that was happening in the early 70s and what these guys were doing in their surroundings. It's really unique.
Yeah, and I think, seeing black dudes in a funk band in Detroit go to see Alice Cooper, and then they get inspired by that in turn, is like, it's going to be something cool, just, if you know that history.
Yeah, I often think about, I was just talking to my wife about cross-pollination of music, listening, so this isn't on my list, but listening to the African band Witch, another 70s band from the Zamrock scene.
We'll add some of that to the playlist too.
Yeah, and there's a newer band called Witch that people might know, with Jay Mascis on drums, and they're good too. More like Sabbath influenced stoner rock. They're really good too. But the original Witch, which stands for We Intend to Cause Havoc, these kids that I think of like how some kids in England heard blues from the American South, started a band called the Rolling Stones. And then these kids from Africa hear these kids from England called the Rolling Stones and decide to start a band that sounds totally different. It's these pollinations that happen in these cultures. It's what music's good for.
Totally, and I think it's something we've both encountered, where you are on the road somewhere and you encounter a musician from that kind of got out there with somewhere different along the genre spectrum, but you can have so many. Just being musicians that make sounds out of stringed instruments, you have these connections that, and then the feeling of just what you do on stage comes through in all of it. So it's really cool to me when that happens, the clash of like people from different realms and different genres. My next track is actually kind of goes right in with that. This is Danzig with 13. Danzig originally wrote this song for Johnny Cash, and there was an acoustic version on Cash's American Recordings album from '94. And it was just, to me, the idea of just thinking about that, like Danzig walking in and showing Johnny Cash one of his songs, and then Johnny Cash in turn just busting it out. And this was wound up being on a Danzig album, and then also was in the movie The Hangover, of such a wild place for it to turn up. But yeah, just a really awesome lyrics that Danzig was like, oh, let's write a song about Johnny Cash, and then Johnny Cash played it. So to me, that was just a really cool place and time.
Yeah, I love that too. And it just showed how open Johnny Cash was at that time to getting input from like Rick Rubin and I know the Heartbreakers were his band on those records, and you know they'd bring him songs and give him ideas, and he was just open to all of it, you know. But that song written just for him, what an appropriate. I got the number 13 tattooed on my neck. The ink starts to
Yeah.
itch and the black will turn to red. It's like, oh, it's
I
so good.
I
And
loved it so much that I got the cliche tattoo of those lyrics. I got it there on the back.
hey, nothing wrong with that at all. And in fact, so that makes me think of in that Chris Cornell book, he talks about when Johnny Cash covers Rusty Cage on that first American recordings. I believe that one is. How you know how just what an honor that was, and how they kind of reworked it to fit Johnny's voice and style, and they realized, you know, a lot of people realized what a great lyricist Chris Cornell is. Um, it takes something being sung by Johnny Cash to make it really shine like that. So he writes about what an honor that was. But yeah, for Danzig, I mean, had to be the same thing. I mean, again, that's a punk and country. I mean, are there very much differences? Punk, metal, country. I mean, there's sonic differences, but really, it's all part of the same family.
Yeah, same. The energy can definitely bring them together, certainly. And we'll actually close out the playlist by talking about some newer stuff, newer art that has been released. And well, yeah, let's get into that.
Okay, so the other two that I was thinking about, they're not so new. They're more like from like the 2010s, but you know, newer than the 70s. But I'm keeping with my power trio. And this band is actually from Iowa City. They were called the Tanks, and I don't know if you ever would have heard of them or saw them at that time, but it was a bass, drums, and a singer. And the singer would often dress up like as a giant bunny rabbit or as like a Roman soldier or a caveman or whatever. And they were just weird and heavy and cool. The Tanks, and this song is called "Command Divide." Let's see it's another track, one side one called "Command Divide," and the album is called "Keep Breaking Down." And yeah, the Tanks.
No, that's amazing, and it's even more amazing to me something from our home front that I haven't been tuned on to. So we will check it out and we'll add that to the playlist. Now with my newer tracks, I am bringing the metal here with a brand new song. It's coming from the band Accept. The single is called "The Undertaker," and it's just kind of like this eerie mid-tempo. Kind of has this really cool build, and yeah, I think a lot of people will get digging on that. So check it out. It's Accept with The Undertaker, brand new.
Accept's been around. I don't know their stuff that well, but they've been around a while, right?
Pretty much since I believe the late '70s. So
Oh,
they've
geez.
been. The big one was the Balls to the Wall. That was kind of the song that went all around the world. But
Okay.
um, they have been going since then, and they were kind of right there on that start of when speed metal started, becoming a known genre. They were riding that.
Oh wow. Okay. So that I love that. So I'll have to check some of that out too. That sounds like that could go right in with some I don't know, like some skate rock, like Suicidal Tendencies, and
Oh
I don't,
yeah,
or I don't
there's
know, but just
definitely.
it was like let's play it faster. Let's
I,
the metal kids heard some punk
yeah,
and we're like we could do this faster even. Yeah.
there's a track that I'm sure was on a lot of those type of mixtapes. "Fast as a Shark" by Accept. So yeah, definitely check that out. Crank that. But yeah, what other new art do you have for the playlist?
So this last one I'm going to recommend or put on the playlist is we're going to go to Japan now for the band Boris, and another track, one side one. It's called Riot Sugar, off their album Heavy Rocks. And yeah, these guys played at Gabe's in like the late 2000s. They were touring that Pink record, and they do a lot of different kind of things, a lot of different types of heavy music. But yeah, this song, Riot Sugar, off the album Heavy Rocks.
Amazing. And yeah, definitely crank that on the playlist. My last song is actually My Mind Can Be Cruel to Me, your new track that people can listen to now. And I heard just a mention of you saying it was about perception, which I think is a really good, timely, important thing to talk about, especially when people are yelling at each other and getting angry. And you know, it's I guess right, just real quick, hot off the oven. What are your takes on your thoughts on the song?
Yeah, oh, so that's cool that this will get added in. I'm honored. Yeah, this one was really fun to do. I got this famous Iowa pedal steel player named Dale Thomas, who he played with Patsy Cline back in the day. He's played with a lot of gunslingers, and he's like 80 something years old, and he plays a mean pedal steel, man. So I got him in on this track. And so, but the song has to do with everyone has had those late night thoughts that are just, sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad, but your mind feels separate from your body in a way. And Mark Twain called it the devil's racetrack, when your mind gets on a loop at 3 a.m. or whenever, and it can't get off. And it's often a negative thing. And your mind can't get off it. Maybe it's something that happened at work. Maybe it's a global pandemic. Maybe it's a loved one that's sick. Maybe it's any number of things. But the devil's racetrack, he called it. And you can't get your mind off it. And yeah. I was having dreams about people in my life that had passed away. And you wake up, and for a second, you think they might still be alive. And that's my particular take on it. And it's just this cruel... It's like it's just, I'm like, my mind is fucking with me, man. Like, you know,
yeah.
it's taking your memories, which are a good thing, and you know, often it's good. You see people that have passed away, and it's like, oh, that was cool to see mom and dad, or you know, whoever it is, but then there's just that sinking feeling that, oh, it wasn't real, and so yeah, it has to do with perception and your mind. Is your mind part of your body? Is your mind separate from your body? You know, all these things. But yeah, it was an interesting subject to tackle.
I've definitely been in similar space, and that gave me chills just listening to you talk about it. So it's like you hit on it. I think this is a really cool track. It's definitely well worthy of joining the ranks of the Heavy Radio playlist. And you know, we could talk. I would love to talk about the whole album, but I also love the experience of dropping the needle on it and taking it all in. So for everybody, that's kind of why, you know, I've just stuck with the one that everybody can go listen to right now. And definitely, yeah, I love the fact that you'll be able to get this record and drop the needle on it very soon. This has been Heavy Radio 15 with William Elliott Whitmore. Have a listen to the new music. And William, thank you for your time. Keep on living free, brother.
Thank you so much. This has been fun. Let's do it again.
Hell yeah.